In the aftermath of Donald Trump's presidency and the possibility of his return to office, economists in the United States and worldwide are raising red flags about the catastrophic economic consequences his policies could have. This isn't just a matter of political rhetoric or partisan squabbling. It's a data-driven warning from experts who have analyzed the potential ripple effects of Trump's most extreme proposals. These include mass deportations of undocumented immigrants, aggressive tariffs on international trade, and sweeping tax cuts that disproportionately benefit the wealthy while gutting essential government programs. The alarm isn't limited to the United States. Global economists are united in their concern that Trump's policies could set off a chain reaction, dragging not only the U.S. but also interconnected economies around the world into recession, or worse, a depression. In this video, we'll explore the potential economic fallout from Trump's policy agenda, unpack insights from leading experts, and consider the long-term implications for America's allies and trade partners. The stakes are immense, not just for Americans but for the global community that depends on a stable and prosperous United States. The dual threat of mass deportations and tariffs. One of the cornerstones of Trump's policy platform during his presidency and beyond has been immigration. His administration's aggressive stance included calls for the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants, with estimates ranging anywhere from 5 million to as many as 25 million individuals. While the rhetoric may have energized his base, the economic implications are dire. According to Paul Mortimer-Lee, an economist with the National Institute of Economic and Social Research in the UK, even the lower-end estimate of 5 million deportations could reduce the US GDP by 2.5%. This would not be a one-time shock, but a persistent drag on economic growth as industries reliant on immigrant labor, agriculture, construction, hospitality, and more struggle to adapt. Mortimer-Lee's assessment highlights a stark reality. Undocumented immigrants are not just workers. They are integral to the fabric of the U.S. economy. Expelling them en masse would disrupt supply chains, reduce consumer spending, and weaken the labor force. If the number of deportations were to reach 25 million, as some of Trump's allies have suggested, the economic contraction could multiply exponentially. Such a scenario could lead to widespread business closures, skyrocketing unemployment, and a decline in tax revenues that fund critical public services. Simultaneously, Trump's penchant for tariffs poses another existential threat. His America First trade policies have already demonstrated their potential for harm. During his presidency, Trump imposed tariffs on a range of imports, triggering retaliatory measures from trading partners. Economists have noted that these tariffs effectively function as taxes on American consumers and businesses, driving up prices and stifling economic growth. Mortimer-Lee warns that a resurgence of such policies would not only spike inflation but also erode global trade relationships. Retaliatory tariffs from countries like China, the European Union, and Canada could exacerbate the damage, leaving American industries, particularly agriculture and manufacturing, struggling to compete in international markets. The global ripple effect. While the U.S. would undoubtedly bear the brunt of these policies, the interconnected nature of the global economy means that other nations would not be spared. America's role as a major importer, exporter, and military ally makes its economic health critical to global stability. When the U.S. falters, its trade partners suffer as well. For instance, countries heavily reliant on American markets for their exports, such as Mexico, Canada, and Germany, would face significant losses. Similarly, developing nations that depend on U.S. investment and aid could see their economies destabilized. Global economists have painted a bleak picture of this scenario. They warn that a U.S.-led recession could trigger a domino effect, pushing economies worldwide into contraction. In an interconnected global supply chain, disruptions in one region can cascade through others. For example, reduced American consumer spending would lead to declining demand for foreign goods, which would, in turn, hurt producers and workers abroad. Additionally, Financial markets, highly sensitive to instability, could experience sharp declines, eroding wealth and confidence across the globe. The human cost of economic chaos. Beyond the statistical projections and economic modeling lies a profound human cost. For the millions of immigrants targeted by mass deportations, the impact would be devastating. Families would be torn apart, communities would be disrupted, and many would face uncertain futures in countries they may no longer consider home. Within the United States, the economic hardships would disproportionately affect vulnerable populations. Small businesses reliant on immigrant labor, low-income families struggling with rising costs, and workers in industries hit by tariffs would all bear the brunt of the fallout. Globally, countries dependent on remittances from workers in the U.S. could see their economies destabilized as these vital funds dry up. Warnings ignored. Lessons from the past. Economists and international observers have not been silent about these risks. Before Trump's election, many sounded the alarm about the potential dangers of his policies. Yet, these warnings were often dismissed as partisan fear-mongering. Now, with the benefit of hindsight and the looming possibility of Trump's return, those warnings seem more prescient than ever. The experience of the Trump administration's first term offers valuable lessons. For example, the trade war with China led to significant economic disruptions, including higher costs for American farmers and manufacturers. Meanwhile, tax cuts for the wealthy ballooned the federal deficit without delivering the promised economic growth. These policies provide a glimpse of what a second Trump term could entail. Only this time, the consequences could be even more severe. A broader perspective, global collaboration at risk. One of the most concerning potential consequences of Trump's policies is the long-term damage to international alliances and cooperation. Global trade agreements, mutual defense treaties, and collaborative efforts on issues like climate change depend on trust and stability. Economists warn that a destabilized U.S. economy could weaken its influence and reliability, making allies less willing to partner with America in the future. For example, the European Union, a significant trading partner and ally, has already expressed concerns about protectionist policies and erratic decision-making from the U.S. under Trump. If such dynamics were to intensify, it could lead to a realignment of global alliances, with nations looking elsewhere for economic and political partnerships. This shift would further isolate the United States and reduce its ability to recover from domestic economic turmoil. A call for preventive measures. Given the severity of these potential outcomes, what can be done to mitigate the risks? Economists and policymakers emphasize the importance of foresight and proactive measures. This includes investing in education and workforce development to reduce reliance on low-wage immigrant labor while ensuring economic stability. It also involves strengthening global trade relationships through fair and balanced agreements that promote mutual growth. Moreover, the role of informed voting cannot be overstated. Americans have the power to shape the nation's future through their electoral choices. By prioritizing leaders who advocate for responsible economic policies and global collaboration, voters can help steer the country away from the brink of disaster. The warnings from economists around the world are clear. Donald Trump's policies pose a grave threat not only to the U.S. economy, but to the global economic system as a whole. His agenda of mass deportations, tariffs, and regressive tax policies risks plunging America into a recession or depression, with far-reaching consequences for its allies and trade partners. As voters and policymakers contemplate the future, these warnings should not be ignored. The interconnected nature of today's world means that the actions of one nation, particularly one as influential as the United States, can reverberate far beyond its borders. The stakes are too high for complacency. The global community depends on a stable and responsible America, and it's up to Americans to ensure that the policies of their leaders reflect that responsibility. The choice is not just about domestic politics, it's about the economic well-being of the entire world.